Well, I'm going to explain how the method of connecting the second stage and first stage came to me. But first, I want to give a little background. You had a question about my grandmother?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting that your grandmother was helpful, because this is in the 1960s, and I know my grandmother didn't know a thing about rockets.
Yes, she was very helpful to me. It was early 1961, and I had a little yellow pamphlet booklet that Fort Sill, Oklahoma had put out explaining different things about amateur rocketry that a lot of folks had at that time. One of the things it mentioned was how to make an igniter out of real thin wires, just wrap it around a pencil. I couldn't find the wires. I looked everywhere, I talked to everybody. So I'm on the front porch of my grandmother in the swing where I did a lot of thinking, and she comes out with a heating pad, old ragged heating pad, and says, "Is this what you're looking for?" And I saw the long plug-in cord, and I said, "Well, thank you, but that's too big." She said, "No, not that, these." And she pulled out the little heating element wires. Yes, that's perfect. That's exactly what I needed. And I used them. A big hug. And that's only one of the ways that she was helpful to me. A second instance that occurs to me is how she cared. After I'd done all my calculations, had acquired everything that we needed, all the parts, pipes, and everything. I had zinc and sulfur, a scale. I told my grandmother I really needed a wooden bowl and a wooden spoon to mix it, and she provided it very tentatively. And so I was in her backyard on the ground, slowly mixing very, very slowly, thoroughly, not to cause a spark of any kind, very tentative about pouring it into the steel first stage. But I did like an inch at a time, 2 inches, then I would just not tamp it down. I was afraid of that. So I would just juggle it up and down so that it settled. Took forever. I noticed her looking out her back door a few times. And so after I'd finished with all of this, the first stage and then the second stage, lengthy process, my mother told me that my grandmother had said, "Eloise, the boy's gonna blow us all to kingdom come." So she cared, and she was right. I could have, but I didn't. Another fortunate thing was that in Columbus, Georgia, we had an ironworks foundry, huge place that provided everything. And after all my calculations were done, I went down there, 16 years old. We had enough money. There were 9 of us in the Rocket Club. We had enough money to buy one of each. I told them I wanted some SAE 1020 cold rolled seamless steel pipe of 2 different sizes. They said, "Well, what sizes?" I said, "Well, what you got?" So we settled on 3-inch diameter and 2-inch diameter. Then I said, "Well, I need some steel blocks, cylinders, that we can make the first stage and second stage nozzles out of. Then we need enough to have metal diaphragms at the very top that would be welded into the pipe. And we also need aluminum. We're going to have 3 fins, aluminum fins for the first stage, and smaller 3 fins for the second stage. And also a aluminum nose cone that would sit on the top of the second stage. They had everything. It was beautiful. And then we took it to, with my drawings and all, to Jordan High School. And Mr. E.D. Fink had the amazing shop there at Jordan High School. And they made all the parts. And that's the picture that was in the newspaper. And they looked like diamonds to me. It was amazing. And so it was a team effort. It was a team effort from Jordan High School manufacturing what I had designed. Also, our Rocket Club, a lot of the guys were involved in building the gigantic launch rail with the guy wires coming down. It was beautiful. Everything worked wonderfully. We even had a car battery that we had a switch on that we had run the wires to the launch assembly as we lay on the ground some 50 yards away, maybe 50 yards. Very dangerous. The battery was an Excello battery from EBCO Battery Company, newly formed. And 22 years later, I wound up buying the battery company. So a lot of little connections here. But while we're talking about the team, I'd like to mention Warren Jensen, our physics teacher, who was one of our advisors. He was a friend and advisor, very helpful. The following year after our launch, he left for Huntsville, Alabama, where he joined NASA and invited me up there. He and his wife, very kind, showed me around. I was thinking about going to work there when I graduated. And Major Eugene B. Freeman, who was Dean of Boys, and also he was the second advisor. He was very helpful. He enabled us to store the rockets in the ROTC building because my grandmother was very alarmed. So we stored them until we could carry them out to Fort Benning, where he had arranged for us to have a mobile radar unit from Fort Benning at the Fournier Range in 1961, June the 3rd. And they would track, and they did. You may have seen the newspaper articles. If you haven't, go to the long version. So he was so very helpful. Our club of 9 members decided to name the rocket the Eugene B. And when I tell the story of how he called me over after the launch and said that there'd be no more launches, there would be no rocket club, it hurt him more than it hurt me because he'd been very helpful. So I want to clear that up. Now, how did the method of connecting the first stage and the second stage together come to me? Well, I need you to do a thought experiment. Picture me as a 16-year-old back in 1961, lying on my grandmother's swing, and I'm facing Columbus High School across Forest Avenue in Georgia. And there's a cupola at the very top of the beautiful school. I am completely worn out trying to come up with ways to connect these 2 stages, and I'm about to give up. And then I see a black tornado of birds spiraling. Just, you cannot see the sun, the setting sun, through this black spiral. There's so many of them. And they drop into that cupola one at a time. I'd never seen anything like it. I sat up, and the coordination of these 500 or more birds never touching each other was unbelievable to me. We'd always use the expression as kids, bird brain. Well, who's the bird brain now? I thought. You know, if they can do that, if the birds can do that, then I can come up with a way to connect these 2 stages. So that was my inspiration. And then I thought, okay, a sculpture. Let's assume that this is all made out of clay, and let's take away what we don't need. So I took a look in my mind of the first stage, 3 inches diameter, the second stage, 2 inches in diameter, with a nozzle coming out. We had 3 fins coming off, and I'll tell you what I saw. Okay, this drawing is a simplification of the drawings that I sent to shop, but if you can imagine 3 fins, right triangles, coming off the second stage, I saw that in my mind. I saw the nozzle. I knew that we needed a bigger first stage, a longer first stage to extend beyond the bulkhead, this steel that was welded into the top to hold the gases and all. And then if we cut 3 slots 120 degrees apart so that the fins would rest there without supporting it, the nozzle just inside the 3-inch pipe, so everything fits snugly, then that would work. There was one problem: the 2-inch wide rocket and the 3-inch wide rocket left a 1/2 inch of air gap on each side. So the next thing that came to me was the thing I'm the proudest of. Okay, the connector that made it work, I do not have my original drawings and I can't seem to replicate it. If anybody finds the original drawings at Jordan High School shop from 1961, I'll give you $500. It's under the name Andy Waddell. I believe I signed them, but I would love to have them back. Anyway, if you can imagine in your mind, there's two concentric rings of aluminum that slid down after I had slid the second stage down with the fins, sliding the 3 fins, sliding into place, just barely touching the top of that. Then the connector snugged up, the outside fit the 3-inch diameter first stage, the inside accepted the 2-inch diameter second stage, and it was broken in half so that it sat on top of the fins, touching the fins, not so they wouldn't slam into it as it ignited, and it was perfect within a millimeter easily. All credit to Mr. Fink and the Jordan High School shop. It was a beautiful job. When we went to the range and we got the first stage on the rail, I slid the second stage down onto the first stage, fins, everything. I had one of these in my left pocket, one in the right pocket. I attached them, it fit perfectly, and the rest is history. I want to acknowledge some of these people. This was in the Columbus Ledger paper, this horrible picture from microfilm that's in the Columbus Library, but we were able to find it in the paper. This is Miss Major Freeman, Warren Jensen, physics teacher. Major Freeman was Dean of Boys and an advisor at Columbus High School. Mr. Fink and some of his boys in the shop. I just remember there I am, and just remember thinking, these are like diamonds. This is beautiful work. The fins, the nozzle that Mr. Fink is holding. So all credit to all of them. Thank you for watching.